Hey guys, welcome back to another video. Today I plan on installing this DEI heat shield. It'll insulate or shield the fuel injectors, the fuel rail, and some of the manifold, and that'll help prevent heat soak from happening, or vapor lock as some people call it, which is essentially the engine gets so hot and the heat builds up. If your vehicle isn't running, it'll vaporize the fuel and the fuel rail and the injector, and then when you go to restart your vehicle, it'll try and inject that vapor instead of a liquid, so it'll run really rough until it takes care of that issue. One thing I've already done to address that was the hood louver I installed, which did help some, but I just wanted to go ahead and get this installed because it was cheap and I figured why not. So I forget exactly how much this is, but I'll put a link to it in the description. I just want to try and hurry up and get this done. I haven't prepped much for this video, but I want to get this done because I finally just got in my Savvy skid plate for my fuel tank, and one of the things you have to do is disconnect the fuel line from the fuel rail there, and when you do that, you can get some spray back from if your system's pressurized, and mine's not pressurized right now because I don't have a tank on it. So I wanted to do this first before I put the tank back on. So I'll go ahead and hop into the video now and we'll do a quick little installation and how-to on this. One thing to note as well is it actually does include instructions, which is nice because it seems like a lot of things don't include instructions, or at least not good instructions anymore. And this one even has pictures with arrows that are numbered, so it's better than most. Another thing to note is, I don't know the exact years, but I think it's like 97 to 03 TJs actually had like a valve here that you could bleed off the fuel rail, and then the newer like 04s, which is what mine is, to 06, they remove that. So really I think the only way to bleed it is just disconnecting the line or like dropping the tank like I already have. I think you can pull a relay too to help bleed off pressure, or if you let it sit for a few days it'll bleed off some of it. But yeah, so mine doesn't have that, but yours might have a way to bleed it off a little easier. So if you are doing this without your tank dropped, there's actually, in the picture I'll show you, there's number 2 there. There's a little way to bleed it off. Okay, so first thing I'm going to do is actually just remove this little air intake, which is just a hose clamp down here and a hose clamp at the box. So all you got to do is loosen that up with a screwdriver or a small socket. Then here, I'm just going to pop this hose off. If you can see with my arm in the way, just pop that off. And I'm just going to stick it up there out of the way. No need to even undo the other one unless you want to. Alright, the next step is disconnecting this fuel line from the fuel rail. They do make a special tool for this, just like a fuel line disconnect tool or something generic like that is what it's called, and it allows you to kind of get in there and decompress it and pop it off. It's got this little clip on it too, just kind of a retainer clip I think to help keep it from falling off or popping off. Pop that off. One other thing I'm going to do real quick is just cover my intake with a rag. You don't really want any debris falling down in there. And while we wait, another thing you can do, or while I wait for my tool to possibly show up, is you can go ahead and remove these 2 clips here. You might not have both of them. One's cruise control. So I'm going to pop those off real quick, which you should be able to just pretty much, I think they pretty much pop off. Yep, that one just popped off. And then this one looks like it slides forward. and then off, which this might be a two-hand job. There we go. So get those off, and now I'm just going to remove these two bolts on this bracket so I can get that off. Alright, these bolts are 10 millimeter for me. I assume they'll be the same for you guys. Alright, we got both those bolts out. So I'll just pull this kind of, that popped right off. But we'll just kind of push that out of the way. The old Amazon truck just pulled up and brought the tool we need. What a hero. Alright, so basically you just clamp this on the line and then push it in towards the actual fuel line. And you hear that click, and then just slide it off. It's almost like magic. Ooh, just a little in the way. It's hitting my AC line there, but we'll get it. I think we'll get it. How long is it? Damn thing. Holy shit. Okay, well, almost ridiculous. How's that even a thing? Oh, come on. How long is it? And why? Why? Alright. That was oddly painful for no reason. So now we got the fuel line off. That was good timing. Amazon's on the ball. Okay, you then have 6 clips. I don't know if you can see too well. These little metal guys that hold the injector to the fuel rail. You'll want to pop off each of these. Like I said, there's 6 if you have a 6-cylinder all the way down. So go ahead and remove those. Just use a flathead screwdriver and just kind of tap them off. Alright, I removed all 6 of those clips. Sorry I couldn't really show you. There's just no good spot to put the camera and show you that. But here's what the clips look like. And they're on just like this. So all I did was take a flathead screwdriver to the ear there and put my one finger under it so it wouldn't fall down to the engine, and pushed off on one side, then pushed off on the other side, and they pretty much popped right out. So that's all you got to do to get the clips off, and then you'll slide them right back on that way. So get all 6 of those off, and then the next thing we're going to do is loosen these bolts on the fuel rail so we can get the fuel rail off and wrap it. So there are 4 of these holding the fuel rail on, and those are also 10 millimeter bolts. So go ahead and remove all 4 of those, and then we can get the fuel rail off. Okay, so now I've got all of those bolts out, so I should be able to pull the fuel rail off. Maybe. Under duress. Maybe not. Oh. I dumped out just a good amount of fuel. Alright. Don't smoke around here. Alright, this side's about to pop. Maybe it's about to pop, man. Come on. I'm torn between pulling really hard and pulling just hard enough not to break anything. But there we are. Fuel rail's off. So now what I'm going to do is disconnect each of these, clips that go to the fuel injectors. And as I disconnect each one, I'm going to put a little piece of tape on here. I'll probably use painter's tape and just make little flags and number them 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. That way I know exactly where the clips go back, even though they're pretty much bent and kind of tamed exactly where they need to go. You don't want to mix them up because that'll screw up your whole firing order and you'll run like shit until you figure it out. So go ahead and pop the clips off and number them as you go. Don't pop them all off and get them all confused and then try and number them. So go ahead and take care of that. Maybe let this air out a little bit so I don't have to get high on gas fumes, and then we'll move on to the next step. Alright, just to quickly show you how these clips work, this red piece is seated. Let me get a little closer. This red piece is seated all the way down. If I can do this with one hand. This red piece is seated all the way down like that. And then you need to pop it up, and once you pop it up, that allows you to push in here on the black piece, and that unlatches it, and then you can pull it off. So like this one, I'll have to raise the red piece. I sincerely doubt I'll be able to do it with one hand. You need to pop up that red piece and then depress the black clip there, and you can pull it off. Alright. So I'm also going to pull out this factory insulation real quick and get that out of the way. Now we got a space for the new stuff to go in. Okay, so the next thing I had to do was pull up on this plastic, it's kind of a wire channel, just wires run through there, and all that holds it down is it's pushed over these, I can't really see that well, it's pushed over these little studs. There's 3 of them. You only have to undo the first 2, and all you do is pull up on it, just kind of grab here and here and pull up with even pressure, because it's, I don't know how, it's kind of finned in there so it grips those threads, but it's not screwed on in any way. You just pull it off. So just kind of wiggle it and pull up with an even pressure and pop it off, and then move it out of the way. And then this is the new heat shield that came with it, and you'll slide it over this stud and then this stud, which the plastic wiring channel clips onto, which is why you have to remove it, and then it goes over that 3rd one. These 2 are all the stock one used, and it didn't matter to pull it out with this on, but to put on the new one it uses this middle stud, so you have to pull that off. So once you pull that off, put that on there, kind of tuck it in, make sure everything's out of the way, you're all good, and then you can take this and you can put it back on those clips. Once again, everything is harder to do with one hand, but all you do is put it on there, and once I have a second hand, I'll just push it down. You can kind of see in the back here how it goes on, or there's an opening. It's just kind of clipped in. Alright, now we'll move on to the next step. Well, I'll be honest with you, GoPros are the devil, and that's what I'm using to film. But I just filmed me putting this on, and the GoPro decided to freak out and just corrupted that footage. So I'm not taking this back off, but it was fairly simple. One thing I wanted to point out was this is where the fuel line connects to the fuel rail. So there's an extra hole down here so you know which way to orient this. And after that, I started with that hole, and then you had little slits that these slide through, and then all these holes were pre-cut. It was a little off, but you can shift it and work it, and everything pops over. This section right here was the only spot that wasn't cut out for whatever reason. I assume
older model TJs didn't have that. I just used a razor blade, and I just had it flipped up and kind of saw and put a little poke through on one edge and a little poke through on the other edge, and then from those pokes I kind of used this as a guide, the other hole, and just kind of made a little U about as deep as that from each of those spots I poked through. And once I had the U, I was able to slip it over pretty well, and everything wrapped up pretty good. And it does look good, and it was pretty easy. I mean, I did have to modify it, which I shouldn't have, but you know, it was a very simple modification. No offense to DEI, but I'm gonna remove this too, because that's just kind of annoying and in the way, I think. Well, I was just about to start putting it back together and got all the fuel injectors inserted, and then I was looking just a little closer at these three on the end, and it's hard for you guys to see. Let me put it in the light. They all three have some pretty good cracks going down them. So probably cracked from heat, which is one of the reasons I was doing this, because that thing gets damn hot. So I will not have this back on the road by tomorrow like I was hoping, and I have ordered new fuel injectors. I got some nice Bosch 4-hole ones that were like 160 bucks for a whole set, and O-rings. So I guess I'll I don't know, mess with the skid plate until then, and I don't know, maybe get the tank seated. Kind of a bummer. It's gonna take a few days to get those shipped here, probably, at the very least. Hopefully I can get them before Friday, or on Friday. It's Wednesday now, so we'll see. Alright, well, tune back in however many days from now. Okay guys, well, I just finished getting my gas tank back up on there with the new skid plate in another video, and in the mail I got my new Bosch 4-hole fuel injectors. These actually look pretty good. Looks like some good quality. I ordered them from Precision Auto Injectors. They sent this nice little sticker, and what was kind of nice is they actually sent this thank you card with it, handwritten, my name. Just, I don't know, it was a nice little touch. Not a lot of people do that kind of stuff anymore, so it seems like a good little company. And these injectors look good, so I'm fairly excited about these. I'd never really thought about upgrading my injectors before, but you know, since they were broken, why not? And these all came with the O-rings pre-installed, and they look pretty greased. They're nice and oiled up. So I'm gonna pop all of these out and then pop the new ones in. So hang tight, no need to watch me just tug these out. I'll be back when I have the new ones installed. Alright, there they all are installed. I got the clips that retain them, or little retainer clips on there. One other thing I forgot to mention, it only took 2 days to get these in the mail, so they shipped them out nice and quick. Alright, so now we're going to put this actually back on the Jeep. Alright. My neighbor took one look at me making a video and started cutting his grass. I swear it's intentional. I swear it is. But alright, so now I'm going to go ahead and line up my holes here. Well, actually first, I'm going to try and wipe out these injector spots. There's kind of a lot of crud around them. Trying to keep as much out of the hole as possible where the injector seats into. So there's a ton of crud just piled up here. Alright, so now I'm going to go ahead and try and seat these in there. Am I hitting? There we go. Oh. Oh no. Mr. GoPro. Okay, well, it's really no great spot for the old GoPro here. We'll try up here. Climb in here, man. I can't reach anything. Like a monkey. Alright. Bit of a pain. Bit of a pain, but there we are. Climb out of here. It's a little bit of a workout. A little bit of a workout. Okay. So now I'm going to put the bolts back in the fuel rail. There's 4 of them. The ones at the 2 ends were both these weird studs. I'm not really sure why, but starting with that. Alright, now with the fuel rail bolted back down, you're going to take your fuel line and clip it back on over the actual nipple coming off the fuel rail. Which mine is a pain if you have air conditioning. Alright, the fuel line is on, and then mine had this little clip that just goes over the fuel line and that nipple to keep it from sliding off. Kind of like a little retainer clip. Alright, got that on. Okay, so next, this is where your numbering comes in. Just reconnect it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 into the actual injectors. And once we connect these, we'll then go back and wrap each injector with these little insulators. Alright, so wrapping the injectors is literally as easy as this. You just stick it around there, roll the injector, and then you Velcro it together. It'll look just like that. So you just got to do that 6 times. Piece of cake. Alright, so now all the injectors are wrapped. You just got to pull back over your, bracket that holds your throttle and cruise control cables if you have it. And then you just have to insert those 2 bolts. Let me get an extension.
Alright, give it a little snug. And then you can pop back on your cables. And that one literally just pops on. This one you just go a little past it and it hooks in. You can also move that back. And then there you go. So both those are clipped back on. Alright, so the last thing we'll do is put this guy back on, our little breather tube, our air intake tube. So that's seated, and then I pulled this little hose off, so stick it back on as well. There we are. And I'm just going to tighten this clamp with a flathead screwdriver. Okay, that's nice and snug now too. So I'm going to quickly just look everything over, make sure I got everything in the right place, all the clips clipped in. I encourage you to do the same. Make sure you didn't miss anything, and I'll be right back with you. Okay, so I'm going to prime it a couple times real quick, turn the key forward but not try and start it, try and get some fuel up in there, and then I'm going to see if it'll start, and I'm going to immediately come out and check for any leaks or, you know, spraying of fuel and make sure everything's where it should be and seated properly. Well, the camera died, but here it is. I don't see any leaks or smell anything, so I think we're good up on the fuel rail. I will say it did start out a little rough, and I think I remember reading that because it's a different type of injector with 4 holes instead of 1, the computer kind of has to relearn a little bit of how much fuel it's going to be injecting. So, but it takes care of that itself as you drive it, and it did smooth out, so that's good. So I'm going to let it run for a few minutes, just warm up, check everything out again, and then I'm going to drive it up to the gas station because it's pretty empty. Alright, well, I think that pretty much does it for this video. I think that'll do it for this video, guys. If you like TJ content, I plan on having a lot more coming out, so please like and subscribe. Got any comments or any tips, that'd be great. I know this probably wasn't the best couple videos I put out, but I tried to get it all done really quickly in 2 days so I can get it back on the road so I can hit a trail soon. So yeah, it is what it is, but hopefully it'll help you out. Thanks.